Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to talk about Lucid trading under the ticker symbol LCID. It's been one of the most speculated stocks in the past few years. Some have said that it might be the next Tesla. Others are simply betting on a giant bubble that will eventually collapse. Regardless, most people are hoping that this company is going to be the next heavyweight in a burgeoning industry. Lucid is also one of the few EV companies actually having a product rolled out, and as time went on, the company's price action, the investors' hype and hopes went through huge roller coasters. But even till this day, some are still wondering if this is still a bandwagon they can hop on. So in today's video, we will take a look at Lucid and see if the company still has a place in our portfolios. If you appreciate my content, please consider to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, please check out the links in the description, as every help is greatly appreciated. So for Lucid, the current share price is trading around $8.25, which is excellent news because this means that the $8 level that we were talking about before has now been acquired and held over the past few days. The $8 level is a very significant psychological milestone because it has been held for a very long period of time, and I suspect that in some people's mind, if not many people's mind, whether we're above or below it will be a factor to determine whether they will buy it. The volume of Lucid ranges between 10 and 15 million shares a day, which is certainly encouraging, but it's not yet enough just yet to push Lucid to a higher level. In other words, people don't really have any reasons to buy Lucid just yet. I mean, what are the possible reasons? Number one, if the sector becomes hot again or if money becomes cheap again. Number two, Monen has some fantastic fundamental news which will encourage people to buy it. So Lucid, of course, is a relatively fundamental driven stock, so the technical aspects don't generally matter that much, but it's also nevertheless interesting and foretelling sometimes to notice that the $8 level remains the objective to hold and to potentially allow an eventual recovery from there onwards. With that being said, we can tell that the interest in Lucid still remains, and it's also significant. It's just that it's not enough to push the price up just by itself without additional fundamental developments or any sort of news that may encourage people to shift from safer investment options to riskier ones. I think that Lucid is going to need some additional support from the fundamentals this time in order to push it above, and we may be waiting from the company to deliver these to us. And by the way, 2023 simply happens to be a year where Lucid should be able to start increasing their productivity to scale up the operations so that their fixed cost can be better, paid off. Lucid Motors, trading under the ticker symbol LCID, is an electric vehicle manufacturer that has been in operations for more than a decade, with a solid presence in the United States, along with world-class technology and designs. As one of the more mature companies in a burgeoning industry, Lucid is often heads and shoulders above other EV startups. One of the major differentiators of Lucid compared to its competitors is the fact that Lucid has a model rolled out, currently being sold and collecting cash from people. It is no longer just a distant promise that there might be an actual finished product coming out hopefully over the next 5 years. Lucid Air is an high-end EV sedan that they have been selling for some time now, and so far it has been having a decent feedback. Of course, nothing is perfect, and Lucid is by no means an exception. It has been having some quality control issues, and just like the rest of the industry, parts are sometimes hard to come by due to a variety of reasons. Another potential reason is that Lucid has a limited presence in the autonomous driving, and this has certainly caused some issues with the long-term growth potentials, because the quality of the battery and the design may not be sufficient to differentiate in the long run, and this may cause some issues down the line. Can that be different a few years down the road? I mean, of course, but it'll probably require some additional funds allocations in research and development. At a time when there is increasingly tight capital availability for growth and startup companies as well. The third one is more psychological, but it is probably one of the things that will linger in people's mind for the foreseeable future every time they hear about the word Lucid. Many people will remember that Lucid, also called CCIV back then, as a company that eventually caused the end of the EV bubble, with equity value in the freefall starting from early 2021. The market is largely a self-fulfilling prophecy regarding price action, and in that case the expectation of a party that may end has already been lingering in people's mind even before the bust. This is why taking the previous levels, it might be something that people are tempted to, but it's also their limits, because as soon as the limits are reached, people are going to liquidate their positions, fearing that it's not going to go beyond the previous heights. Obviously, the past doesn't predict the future, and the EV sector altogether is still a young industry with plenty of growth potentials. What I'm trying to do here is to paint a picture about where the company came from and what could explain the current dynamics. From a long-term perspective, the relevance of Lucid is directly dependent on the potentials of the industry itself, as well as the trends that will occur within the automobile sector at large. We know that within a decade, many countries would start to limit or even forbid the sales of new combustible engine vehicles. And that, of course, may affect the price of many alternative transports that will become maybe more affordable and more readily available. The biggest factor to look at here over the next few decades would be the technological advances for both the electric vehicles but also other kinds of transportation solutions. For example, how likely are rare earth going to be recycled more often, the fuel cell technologies to become a reality, and the urban development to allow alternative methods of transportations like tramways, metros, and trains to be more widely used. At the moment, it seems like the electric vehicles are going to have an important role in this new economy, but for how long would this assertion remain accurate? Another aspect to consider is the possible change in the market participants' collective psyche of how to evaluate the market cap of EV companies. The reason why this sector is so popular is because the market cap differs very much to the ones of traditional auto manufacturers, is because by and large, the EV companies are valued as tech companies, with the assumption that they have a much higher degree of sophistication and more emphasis on research and development. Of course, some companies do indeed spend a lot of money on these. Many more are just doing Lego work though, assembling batteries, chassis, and wheels on which they have like little to no proprietary technologies and simply put their logo in order to upsell. There's indeed some concerns about how long will these assumptions last, that the EV manufacturers are much more just manufacturing companies and not tech companies. So I think that the answer might surprise many in the years to come. I'm not saying that this will happen for sure, but the likelihood is material enough for people to consider this as a risk factor. In terms of fundamentals, Lucid has been able to prove to the market that their product is popular enough and that the company has a decent production capacity to satisfy customers' demand to a point. With that being said, they have a scale problem, and to generate profit, or to just have gross profit, Lucid has announced in the past that they need to increase the production significantly in order to amortize the fixed costs. This kind of concerns is compounded by the fact that global economy is likely to slow down over the next couple of years. If the production capacity is expanded now, they could have lower inventory and capital turnover, increasing the collection cycle and to become more financially vulnerable. If they don't increase the production now, there could be widespread market skepticism on Lucid's management and ultimately reflect on Lucid's share price. Despite all this, Lucid remains one of the more promising and substantial EV manufacturers in this burgeoning and volatile sector, with real products rolled out and actual customers willing to buy their cars. What this means is that the business model is proven to be mostly valid, and the rest is a question of scale, patience, and entry point. Given the current price action, the fact that most shares are owned by institutional shareholders, my recommendation is to keep the emphasis on long-term holding instead of short-term trading. Given the current circumstances, I would therefore recommend to start buying Lucid at the current level and to stretch the purchasing period over the next few months, as we do expect the stock to also have some other challenging periods ahead once the recession actually hits.